Hi, hello everyone. So welcome to Isha Tech YouTube channel. So officially this is our first video on technical tools, that is Git and GitHub. So what is Git? What is GitHub? So this video is completely for the beginners who are watching this video for the first time. You don't know about Git and GitHub. So this will be the video which is very useful for you. We are going to understand the day one session of Git and GitHub introduction today. So, what is Git and what is GitHub? Before learning that, we have to make sure that we are understanding what is version control, right? What is version control system? So we all know about, so Git is a distributed version control system, which means that the server repository access will be given for the all the developers, and they can raise a pull request, they can push the code, and they can edit the code over the different branches. These are the techniques what the developer uses, right? So first we will understand on a basic note, that is what is version control. A version control system is a system which keeps all the history of the changes made by the developer. And also, if in case I wanted to go back to the version changes to the previous one, I can go it safely, which means that all the versions of the code will be recorded on simultaneously, and we can switch back to the previous one if required. So this is called as version control, right? So in a basic terminology, if I wanted to describe this version control, so it is every changes is remembered by the version control, so no data, no code will be lost. And you can also return to the previous stages, previous commits, previous code easily. That is called as a term version control, right? So now we are having the types of or stages of version control. So the first and foremost, we are having the four, very standard. So the stage one says that no version control. What does this means? No version control means what? So usually no version control means olden days we don't have a version control. Basically, we used to store all the data manually. All the files we used to save manually. If in case I wanted to rename the file again and again, I have to do with the same thing. There was no history for it, no team collaboration. It creates a lots of confusion. The stage one, right? So this is a older one, so which creates a lot of confusion. This stage is really very bad to use, in the sense we which will helps us in no tracking and all. So these were all the problems what we used to face in the stage one of version control. And later on, we had a second one, that is stage two, that is local version control system. LVC we call it as. What is this LVC? LVC is a version where we store it on our local computer, right? So simple database tracking, we can call it as a revision control system. So the problem with this is, if in case your laptop crashes, all the data lost. So this was the problem what this local version system control has. And also it doesn't has any team collaboration was not there. And also it was too risky, because if in case any data lost, it's gone, no retrieval options are there in it. So this is one of the thing. And also we have here the third stage, that is stage 3, centralized version control system. What is the centralized version control system? So here a little upgrade has been made from the local version control to centralized. Here we have what is that, team collaborations can be done, right? Teamwork. But here one thing you have to understand by this is, if in case you wanted to collaborate, so this is our central repository. Okay, so repository means it's a kind of folder where you store all the source code in one server. So one single server has an access to the multiple developers, so this is called as central repository, which means that centralized version control system. Centralized version control system is a system where a single repository is given an access to all the developers, where they can update the code, they can commit the code, they can raise a pull request, and also they can push to the single server that is called as central repository. So this is how the traditional way the developers used to do with the centralized distributed version control system. But now later on things changes, right? So centralized version control system we understood, so a single repository where multiple developers work together. What is the drawback here, right? So the biggest problem is, hence every developers are working for the single server, so server may go down, right? Nobody works when the server go down, so that is one of the thing. And internet is needed always, always whenever they are working they needed an internet, so that is one of the main thing. And if in case any code breaks in between, so it would have affected directly, so that is one of the thing. uh, this is where we call it as also the tool here, the centralized version control system can also be subversion centralized system. So this is how it works. So this diagram helps you to understand what is the centralized repository and how the local repository, where the locally the changes made by all the developers will be given an like pushed to directly to the central repository. So this is one of the main important thing. And again, here, the fourth one, the fourth stage we have, that is distributed version control. So, what is the difference between distributed version control system and centralized version control system? So, here, this is very important that to understand the centralized and distributed version control. So here we understood that in the centralized version control system, we'll be having one single server where every developers will be working on that, updating and pushing and pulling request. So everything happens with this centralized one, that is with a single repository. But what happens if it is a distributed version control, right? So here, if it is a distributed version control, uh, here a single repository will be given an access. Suppose imagine that here we have a user 1 and user 2 and user 3, that is developer 1, 2 and developer 3. Everyone will be having an access of the repository, that they can pull the repositories on their local, they can make such changes, they can commit, they can update, and then they can push it again to the server. This is the mechanism of the distributed version control system. This is a very good idea, and where the Git comes here, right? So where the full copy of your project or a history or a server will be given to all the user, so they can make a changes, right? The famous here we have a tool for this distributed version control system, that is Git and Mercurial. So Git is very famous and huge used. So now we'll understand. So we got to know how the Git works with what version control. It is with the distributed version control, which is very important to know. And later on, we have to understand. So here, what is Git? So we got to know that Git is a distributed version control system, how it works, and everything, right? And difference between centralized and also distributed version control system. Now we'll understand what is Git. Basically, Git is nothing but it is a version control system that works in the distributed way. That is the first point. And this helps us in tracking the changes made to our file. We can manage it, we can control the changes. So the changes can be the code changes, Excel scripts, SQL files, notebooks, etc. Whatever it might be, we can track it. That is the functionality of the Git, right? So here, internet is not required for the Git, right? And also what does it tracks the files, maintain the version control history, works locally on your system. allows the teamwork without overwriting the other works, correct? So these are all the key features of the Git. And very important thing is Git works on your laptop local machine. So Git works on your laptop on your local machine. So this is very important. And we have to understand the what is Git we got to know, which is a local uh, machine. We can work on it without internet also it supports, and installation is also very important. We'll see it in the further after understanding about the GitHub, right? So what is GitHub usually? So GitHub is a cloud platform that stores all the Git repositories online, right? So here you have to understand what is this Git and the GitHub, right? The difference between the Git and the GitHub is also important, and the terminology called as repository. What is that usually? The repository means it is like a folder, right? So you can create a repository which is nothing but a folders in the GitHub platform where you can store your all the source code, that is the project code, whatever you write that can be stored. So this is one of the important thing. So now just imagine that you are working on some of the web application. Suppose think of you are working of some of the web applications. You are having you wrote it in the version 1. So which operates the login credentials and all. So now what you do? So this is your version 1 and you update few features for it. What is the features you add it out? So you update the same code, you add one more line with the logos, updated logos, and you add it in the version 2, right? So this is version 1. You commit it with some commit IDs. So that will be tracked off. And this is your version 2. Even this will be your tracking application. Likewise, the same thing you make a changes that is for version 3. Again, that will be tracked. So this is called as version control. And in that version control, Git and GitHub stays in the distributed version control where every users will have a full copy of the repository. They can make commit and they can make updates of it, and that will be used without interruptions within a team with the collaborations. Okay, so this is all about Git and GitHub. So GitHub is a cloud platform where it stores all the source code, whatever you have in locally, that can be added to the remote repository where everyone can collaborate each other. So backup of your code will be online, and also you can share the code with others, and also it helps us work with a team, and also you can show as a portfolio of your repository. This is very important if you're a fresher or an entry level with below 3 years of experience. So every recruiter sees your portfolio on your coding skills and how you are good at version control, right? Which is very important. So later on, we'll understand now what is the difference between Git and GitHub. Very important, right? So, and one more key point I would like to give you all is please sit with pen and paper or a short note whenever you are learning. So this series gonna be a good interactive and I would like you all to comment for the videos your suggestions on. So I would like to take it all and it has to be helpful for you as well as for me. Open for all the suggestions in the comment box. And very important, what is difference between Git and GitHub? So basically Git is a version control tool. GitHub is a online hosting platform. Okay, online cloud platform, which is hosting platform. And also what where it works locally. What? Git works locally and GitHub will works cloud platform. Internet is not required for the Git and internet is required for the GitHub, right? So why do we use Git? Git is used for the tracking, like to track the changes to the files. GitHub is useful for storing and sharing the codes. right? So these are all the difference between the Git and the GitHub. In the next sessions, we'll learn about more interesting topics on Git and GitHub, and also coming videos will be on completely practical. So any doubts or questions, uh, please do comment. And if the video is helpful for you, click a like button and also subscribe to the channel, right? Thank you so much and have a good day.